Ready to welcome him to the stage? All right, okay. Everybody, let's start clapping, start cheering. Please welcome to the stage the headliner for tonight, Andrew Tubman!
That's how I stop myself from coming as well. So hey guys, it's great to be out the house. So some of you may recognize me because I have friends in the audience. Also, because a couple of years ago I was on a TV show on Channel 4 called Naked Attraction. Yeah, season 1, episode 5. Yeah, I came second, like I normally do. Yeah, she picked the other guy. She said that she preferred his testicles. And like, it's okay. It's not like she said that to me. She just said that in front of me on national TV. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not great at relationships. Like, the only time I've convinced a girl to move in with me is on Minecraft. And Minecraft's all right for getting puss. But by far the best dating website is obviously LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn tells you the important things about people, like if they're a team player, if they're punctual, employed. Guys, what I'm trying to say is dating is not going well. I think the worst thing that I hate about dating is like the really unfair double standard that men and women have about sex and multiple sexual partners. So usually when I tell people that I've had sex with like a lot of different girls, they'll say things to me like, "You're a fucking liar. No, you haven't." They say things like poking people on Facebook doesn't count. And I think that I'm fuckable. Like, on Halloween, I dressed up as the Incredible Hulk. I spent 2 hours in the mirror with green body paint just to get the look right. And a lot of girls came up to me and said that I look just like Shrek. Welcome back. But usually when a guy tells people he's had sex with a lot of different people, he's called like a player or a stud, unless it's through Grindr. It's pretty easy to have sex through Grindr, as I've been told by other people. But yeah, I spent 5 minutes on Grindr, and the next 20 minutes deleting dick pics. I had way too many photos of my penis. But there are some differences between men and women. So women queue for the toilet. Like, women go to the toilet together, often in groups, and the only logical explanation for that is women are always carrying around cocaine. Like, I used to think that women just used to go to the toilet together to talk and support each other through difficult poos. But then I realized that if I went to the toilet with a bunch of guy friends and they didn't have cocaine, it's because I have the cocaine. Or they're just there to support me during a really difficult poo. I don't know, so I'm a feminist. No applause, okay. So I believe that men and women have a lot of biological and psychological differences, but I don't think one is better or worse than the other. If I did, I'd probably think women are more impressive, because women make people. Like, it's so easy for a woman to make a person. They can do it completely by accident. Not me, like I was planned to be a playmate for my older brother. But yeah, it only takes about 9 months for a woman to make a person using her body. The most impressive thing I can do with my body is pee standing up. And now they have shiwis. I don't know. I identify as a feminist not just to like impress women with my wokeness, maybe a little bit. Is because I don't believe that different means separate. So men and women, we both have a lot more in common than we have differences. We all do cocaine. Separation leads to inequality, unnecessary competition, and imagined and reinforced stereotypes, which are usually made by comedians. Sorry. I don't know. I think the best cure for sexism is to realize that men and women have various differences, but fundamentally we're the same. So the term toxic masculinity has been mentioned a lot over the past few years. The idea that men can't express feelings or vulnerability without alcohol. And like sometimes it gets really bad. Like sometimes I'll just try and hug a guy and he'll be like, no homo. And then I have to be like, dude, that erection had nothing to do with you. It just happens sometimes. I don't know. I grew up hearing things like "Man up," "Boys don't cry," "It's just a cartoon," "Mufasa wasn't really alive in the first place." But showing weakness and vulnerability isn't something to be ashamed of. Like I personally think it takes a lot of strength and MDMA. Now, I'm not saying that MDMA is the cure for toxic masculinity. I am saying that it helps, and more people should do MDMA. So I don't really understand white privilege, mainly because I'm white. But I Googled it. So I accept that I receive preferential treatment from the police. People rarely ask to touch my hair. And I'm never invited to the fun churches. Which makes sense because I'm not religious, but I don't know. So usually the main people who are benefiting from privilege are the main people who always try and get like the poor and the disadvantaged to fight amongst themselves with things like white privilege, the elite. So this bit probably isn't going to be that funny, but if you're not laughing, you're learning. As of right now, over 20% of the UK currently lives in poverty. And I come from a working class family. I'm broke. And I'm expected to believe that I have more in common with people who own several cars and houses just because we both use the highest factor sunscreen than I do with the black people on my street. I mean, the history of the world seems to be that the rich get richer at the expense of the poor, like kind of like a reverse Robin Hood. And that's the way things will always be. Unless you play the lottery, or there's a revolution. Okay, maybe the next crowd. I don't know. We're in kind of the time of like Trump and Brexit, where there's a lot of kind of people trying to get us to hate immigrants because apparently they're taking our jobs and bringing in drugs. Well, I hate jobs. I think jobs are by far one of the worst things about leaving university. And I love drugs, like clearly. So if people are bringing drugs into the UK, I fully support that. Because I don't know how to make drugs. But it's insane. Like immigrants are just people who are born in a different part of the planet. Like no one chooses where they're born. Like, if I could choose where I was born, I would obviously be born in a manger in Bethlehem, surrounded by wise men, and despite living in a really hot country, still somehow have the complexion of an Eskimo. I'm just saying, if Jesus was white, his main superpowers would be walking on water, resurrection, and having skin completely immune to sunlight. I don't know, everyone's different in some way, but when people think their way of being different is better than others and see difference as a way to judge value, then separation is inevitable. Because your self-worth shouldn't come from a comparison to other people. It should come from how you see yourself. Because life isn't a competition. If it was, it would be an unfair one, where instead of people winning, everyone dies. Most people don't even get the opportunity to exist. they're killed by masturbation or condoms. On a lighter note, you know the funny thing about climate change? It's probably the best cure we have for racism. Because when certain parts of the planet get so hot, they become uninhabitable, and rising sea levels lead to mass flooding, we're all going to move in together. And it's pretty difficult to be racist to someone if you're sharing the same room and you're both about to die. Too real? Too real? Okay, that's fair. Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't know. A good thing about climate change is it's probably it's the best legitimate excuse that I have not to have children. Like, oh, I'm sorry, baby. It's not that I don't want kids. It's just that I don't want them to grow up in like a Mad Max style dystopia where every day is like a hunt for resources. Actually, you know what? Maybe we should have kids. So when we get too old and weak to go out and scavenge for food and water, we can send the kids. I think I do want kids. Thank you, climate change, for saving my relationship that I have for the purposes of this joke. I don't know. Something I found quite annoying is when people say, like, save the planet. Like, we need to save the planet. The planet will be fine. We need to save the humans. The rest of the species too, but mainly the humans. I mean, like, the Earth will be here for a long time after we're gone. It'll heal itself. Plastic bags will outlive us. I don't know. The best thing about climate change is it's the best thing that we have to bring us all together. Like a common struggle which affects everyone, regardless of age, culture, or whether they voted for Trump or Brexit. I'm just saying that generally we're social creatures. We're happiest when we have a sense of community and something which connects all of us together, like Tinder. Or a revolution. Okay, you can't blame me for trying. All right, let's. I don't know. It is good being in Hammersmith. A few years ago, I lived in Australia. I lived there for the year, and I was there during the gay marriage vote. And I actually met someone who voted no on gay marriage. It wasn't just like a gay guy terrified of commitment. It was a guy with some very old-fashioned and homophobic beliefs. And his main belief was that if they allow gay people to get married, then people will start marrying animals. And I think that's the best possible thing that could happen. Okay, hear me out. So I think people should marry animals because it's the quickest and easiest way to catch the people who are having sex with animals. If you're willing to marry an animal, you've clearly been having sex with it for a long time without being caught. I'm just saying that marriage has always caused people to have less sex. So I'm going to pass around my pro-animal petition. It's completely anonymous for obvious reasons. I'm going to pass this around. I don't know. So I lived in Australia for the year, and then when I came back to London, I lived in a hostel in North London, number 8, Seven Sisters. I lived there for 3 months because my life's amazing. I don't know if you guys have ever lived in a hostel before, but basically the only good thing about living in a hostel is that you don't need porn to see two strangers having sex. On the second night at the hostel, there was a guy and girl having sex in the bunk bed across from me, and there was a guy in the room masturbating to it. I'm not proud of it. It just happened. I find the concept of hostels like really weird. Like you sleep in a room with a bunch of strangers, a lot of which who are leaving the country the next day, with your iPad. Long story short, I'm selling iPads. If anyone, I have a good deal. But so my favorite thing about the hostel, so there's people living from all different countries, all different cultures together in harmony. But the majority of people seem to spend the majority of their time with people who look like them, think like them, or from the same place they're from, because they think it's easier to connect. There's always going to be people that it's easier to connect with based on relatability, but there's other people who we relate to less, often from a different life experience or culture, that can teach us more. So one of my friends is a dominatrix. I can give you a number. Another friend I have is serving in the military. My best friend is Jesus. He's an Australian guy that I met at the hostel. And he's a fun Jesus. Like when I told my parents that I found Jesus in the hostel, they were so happy, they were so proud. They were like, oh my God, finally, a positive influence. And he is a positive influence. To do more LSD. But he's easily the greatest teacher that I've ever had about people. So he taught me that pretty much everyone regularly struggles with insecurities, and no matter how attractive they are, how successful, or how much money they have. And it's very difficult to love and accept someone who's very different from you if you don't first love and accept yourself for what makes you yourself. Everybody's different in some way. Nobody's perfect. Like, we can't even define what perfect is. But when we learn to embrace our insecurities and imperfections and just realize and accept they're just part of what makes us who we are, we encourage more people to do the same. If we have the courage to accept and love ourselves for who we are and the things that make us who we are, and have the courage to treat others who seem very different from us as our equals, we encourage more people to do the same. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the world would be a much better place if more people did acid with Jesus. Thank you. I don't know, I just want to say that if there's any police here, then I did acid before 1960 when it was legal. And I was of legal age. And it was blessed by Jesus. So, religion. I want to start by saying that I respect anyone's right to believe in anything, no matter how wrong it is. I'm agnostic. I was born a Christian. I later became an atheist, and then I did acid with Jesus. Yeah, really changed my perspective. I don't know. So I see religious people like a bunch of like-minded individuals who choose to see meaning and purpose in a universe which appears to have none. I see religious people a lot like flat earthers, in that science should have ended their belief a long time ago. Okay, a lot of flat earthers in. I apologize. I don't know. I was just say that, like, generally, people are only ever going to change their mind if they're open to changing it. So whether people believe the Earth is shaped like a frisbee, or that a guy pulls the sun across the sky each day in a chariot, everyone has different opinions and beliefs. Being right isn't more important than being able to have a dialogue and a connection with people that you disagree with. Some of these jokes are just going to be insightful. So my favorite time with Jesus is, so we went to the Museum of Jesus in South Kensington because he's a narcissist. So the people are laughing who they've genuinely met Jesus. We smoked a joint outside, and we went in, and he got stopped at random for like a security check because he's pretty stoned. So they patted him down. They made him stand like this, and they found a small bag of weed. Okay, it was quite a big bag of weed, and they said, "What is this?" And he replied, "Blessed be are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." Come on, guys. What would Jesus do? He's now banned from the museum. All right, let's play a quick game. Put your hands up if you've ever been discriminated against based on an aspect of yourself that you couldn't control. A few people. For the purposes of the camera, that is probably 6 people. I don't know. So as a straight white middle class male, I haven't experienced that much discrimination, but it doesn't look fun. Like the closest thing that I have to compare it to is not being liked from people from Sunderland. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, so I'm from Newcastle, and the city right next to me is Sunderland, and there's like a rivalry between the two places because of football. Now, I like football. I don't like football teams because they can get very kind of tribal, and so I'm not meant to like the city right beside where I was born, just because I like football, which is ridiculous. I mean, I don't like Sunderland. But that's because it's not a great place. So we have the highest rate of unemployment in the northeast, like over 70%. Like London has so many jobs. Like sometimes I just go to job interviews here for fun. Most times I go because I need a job. All right. So do you guys like impressions? Do you guys like impressions? All right, here's my impression of a comedian doing political comedy in North Korea. Hey guys, you see the funniest thing about our supreme leader, Kim Jong-un, is that his name strikes fear in the balls of his enemies. Thank you. That joke's all about execution. Cheers. I love that joke so much I'm willing to get blinded. There seems to be a clear rise of the far right and white supremacists all over the world. And I did this joke at a gig a couple of weeks ago, and a girl came up to me after the show and she said, "There's nothing funny about white supremacists." I disagreed. I think the fact that the KKK is led by a wizard with no magic powers is kind of funny. But I don't know. I understand that it's weird. Like it's weird me talking about how bad white supremacists are, looking like a Hitler Youth. It's not my fault that I look this way. It's my parents. They're Nazis. They're not Nazis. They're not Nazis. Just it's just a joke. Just because I'm Hitler's favorite doesn't mean that he's mine. But I completely understand how looking at your group with feelings of positivity can make you feel superior. I was in the chess club at school. And even though we won competitions, we never thought we were better than any of the other sports. Maybe the football team. And I completely understand the appeal of wanting to be part of a group that you feel like accepts and reflects you. I was in the chess club at school. But no matter who you feel like you're connected to or separate from, you're always part of a much larger community, and it's only a mindset which tries to convince you otherwise. This isn't the government's responsibility to fix. It's ours, and society as a whole. We need to encourage separatist communities to come together and talk, because the only way to fight intolerance is to show that we can always come together and connect with each other in a non-sexual way and in a sexual way. Make love, not war, unless that war is fought with genitals. And the first country to come loses. It's just an idea. The first time that I did sex to the girls was when I was 19. Like it took me such a such a long time to get the money together. Yeah. This was it's actually the first time I did sex was a lot like the first time I ever performed on stage. Like, I was nervous, I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I had to wait for the other guys there to finish. It was a gangbang. I just want to say that if anyone here wants to follow me after this gig, it's at Andrew Tubman 2 on Twitter, or you can just search Andrew Tubman on Tinder. Please swipe right. I just want to say to any of the girls here that I'm not perfect. Like, I listen too much. I spend way too much money on presents. I'm too fertile. And I'm too good at eating pussy. Like I just set up camp down there. Like, you know, like when a bear goes to hibernate? I just live in that cave. I bring snacks with me. I don't know. I just don't understand why people get so judgmental when it comes to sex. Like, sex is completely normal and natural. Like, we're one of the few species that has sex for pleasure, and one of the only species that has BDSM. No, sex is meant to be enjoyed. Like, did you know that the clitoris is the only part of the human body specifically designed to give pleasure? It has no other function. So it's a good thing that it's easy to find. I like to think of myself as kind of open-minded, sex-wise. However, I've never sent a dick pic before. True story. However, I was naked on national television. So if anyone asks, I can send them a link to a high-definition dick video with amazing production values. But no, it is really great to be here in Hammersmith, especially because I live in Finsbury Park. For those of you guys that don't know Finsbury Park that well, the best way I can describe it is 2 weeks ago I saw a pigeon with a joint in its mouth, and now that pigeon is my weed dealer. He does deliveries. I saw on the news a few months ago that there's thousands of landlords all across London offering sex and sexual services instead of rent. Thousands, which is really humiliating. Because I've spoke to hundreds of landlords. I understand why it's a little bit quiet. Like, it's a very sensitive issue. I just want to say that, like, if there's anyone here that knows anyone that has a nice house in central London, please come and speak to me after the show. We can work out a deal. I don't know. But it is good being here in Monopoly Town. I played Monopoly a few days ago with my housemates, and it's not good for your self-esteem playing Monopoly with your London flatmates, because Monopoly is a game based around a concept that it's so easy to buy and own property in central London and then convert that property into hotels. Even a child can do it. I don't know, I just wish they made Monopoly more of an honest representation of London by just throwing a lot of pret-a-manges on the board, taking away the free parking, and being able to have sex with one of their players instead of paying the rent. It's a weird concept, Monopoly. Just like the only way to win is to avoid letting the ever-increasing London rent prices from bankrupting you. So it's fun from ages 3 and up, which is awesome. I don't know. It's just London's not what I originally thought it'd be like. London's a lot more Snow White than Mary Poppins, in that you usually live with 7 other people. There's an evil queen who kills princesses. Allegedly. Allegedly. Come on, guys. She did that. She did that shit. I think the main difference between London and Snow White is people don't usually sing a happy song on their way to work. because most people hate their jobs. Like, they're just doing it to pay rent and afford things, like the rest of the bills. I don't know. It's just weird being ruled by a queen. Like, did you know that? So the queen is 93 years old. The retirement age in the UK is 65. I think the only full-time job that someone should have at 93 is not dying. We have a few royalists in the room. God save the queen. God save the queen. So I've been getting high and watching a lot of Blue Planet lately. Because learning's fun. And I found, did you know that dolphins are seen as one of the best predators because they work as a team to catch their prey? Because they understand the benefit of working together. With enough people working together on something, we could achieve almost anything. We could end poverty worldwide by just redistributing half of the wealth of the rich and the super rich. And I know it's unfair on the super rich. Like, I can't imagine what it must be like giving up half of my private jets. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just being down to 3 yachts. Because I shop at Poundland. I want to play a quick thought experiment with you guys. Okay, so let's say that there's 10,000 people, and all of those people have a pint glass, and in their pint glass is varying amounts of water, and that water represents their individual resources. So some people have a small amount, some people have a medium amount, some people have almost a full pint. Let's say 3,000 out of that 10,000 have a very small amount of water resources and struggle to keep themselves hydrated and alive. Someone with an average amount of water, or just above average amount of water, says to himself, "Oh, I'm not going to give some of my pint to help those 3,000 because my individual contribution won't make a difference." And he is absolutely correct. His individual contribution will not make much of a difference to those 3,000. But if 4,000 people all give a little bit of water, then the impact and difference is massive. And this happens when people change their mindset from my individual contribution won't make much of a difference to my contribution alongside others will. United, we're at our strongest, and divided, we're at our weakest. We don't need to be this divided anymore. We don't need to have a huge part of our identity based around which part of the world we were born in. And the lines that separate different countries are all imagined. I know it sounds like I'm going to start singing John Lennon. Hopefully I'm not the only one. That joke's just for me. But just like John, I think that the world can live as one. Like some people, oh shit, it's just got sinister. That's worse. Guys, if I'm honest, this kind of feels like I'm in an interrogation room right now. Fuck. Okay. Oh, thank you. So yeah, so some people may need more. That's fine. So some people may need more resources or education. Just getting more real in here. Some people may need more resources or education, but once we're all fed and educated to a good standard, and we go from feeling like a bunch of individuals and small groups competing or comparing against each other, I don't think we'd be as accepting of things like Poundland. A lot of that was the distraction. I don't know. There's a lot of people here tonight. It's like the opposite of one of my birthdays. I don't need R's. I need RSVPs. I need people to turn up. No, but I like getting older. I hated being a kid because as a kid, everyone thinks you're really naive. Like my parents used to lie to me constantly. They used to say things like, "Santa Claus is real. We don't think you're gay. You are planned, and we love you and your brother equally." My dad loves that joke, probably because it focuses on my brother. So I'll tell you guys a bit more about me. I'm a millennial. Any other millennials here? So I'm not a typical millennial. Like, I like gluten. I'm not that entitled. I've accepted that the only way for me to break into the housing market is like most millennials. Wait for a rich relative to die. But the most common stereotype about millennials is that we're too spoiled. And I think the main reason people think that is because we grew up with the internet. So we didn't have to bury our porn. And I'll be the first person to admit, like, my generation is far from perfect. Like, I realized that watching season 4 of Love Island. But I think the main thing my generation lacks is direction. In regards of life, like, Google Maps is amazing. Like, I don't even know how to be lost anymore. But the happiest times in life usually are around close personal relationships with people. And despite the many tools that my generation has to connect with each other, a lot of millennials are missing some of the fundamental things needed for a happy life. Community, close personal relationships with people, and houses. That's the end of the TED Talk. I don't know. So as you guys can probably tell, I'm pretty woke. Not enough to stop eating meat or watch ethical porn. But I do think that people care too much about being seen as intellectually or morally right than they do about other people. The only way for two people or two groups to find a resolution to something is by both sides listening to each other with compassion and respect. Like on Jerry Springer. And if Jerry's taught us anything, is that the only way that you can come to a resolution between two parties that disagree or dislike each other is by both sides listening to each other with empathy, and where the focus isn't just to try and prove who's right, but to try and understand the other person and their perspective. I might be thinking of the Dr. Phil show. There's nothing constructive to be gained from division and separation, but many things to be gained from a widely diverse, connected community with compassion, acceptance, and understanding as its foundation. Which we can all create with taking small steps together. When you leave this show, please approach someone you normally wouldn't, someone you feel you're disconnected from, you're separate from, or different from, and have a conversation. Approach it with empathy and an open mind, and then please tweet me so I can see if this show has an impact. We can change the world. We do it every day with the decisions we take and choose not to take. We can choose to change the story we tell ourselves about who we are and who we feel like we're connected to and separate from. If we see difference in people as something negative, then we get division, inequality, and hatred. If we see difference in people as something positive, we get inclusion, compassion, and a much more loving society that I know that we can all create if we just take small steps towards it now. Thank you. One last thing. I wanna thank everyone for coming, but also I just wanna say that in a world where everybody's different shouldn't be feared. It should be accepted. It shouldn't separate. Thank you. The one clap is we can build a revolution together. But no, so yeah, it shouldn't separate us from each other. We shouldn't see difference. We don't need to compare or compete against each other. We need a social change from going to feeling like a bunch of individuals and small groups competing against each other to feeling part of a collective. The pursuit of money and success doesn't make us feel happier than feeling part of a community. We can choose community over self-interest, and we can choose to be kind and compassionate to those people that we feel that we're separate from or different from. I guess what I'm trying to say is be the change you want to see in the world. because society changes when we change. Thank you.